Tonight, let's lie back and travel so far into the past that there are no streetlights, no engines, no screens, only a wide, dark sky and a few small fires trembling in human hands. Imagine stepping into that cold air, a wind drifting down from the north, carrying the scent of smoke and dry grass, and you see them, small groups huddled close, eyes reflecting the flame like tiny moons. For us, fire is a switch, a stove, a lighter, but for them it is shelter, warmth, and the difference between tomorrow and not tomorrow. A sudden rain could erase everything, so someone guards the ember like it's a living thing, because it is. The tribe doesn't have tips and tricks, no online guide, no backup plan, only careful hands, careful breath, and patience. Now, we begin to walk with them, not as a hero, not as a leader, just a quiet witness, following a migrating band as they move through a valley, each footprint pressing into the earth like a silent promise. We can't fully feel their hunger or their fear, but we can sense the tension in their shoulders, the way every shadow might be a predator, the way every rustle could mean danger or dinner. And sometimes, in the dark, a child's cry rises for a moment, then softens, and the fire answers with a gentle crackle. In one small scene, someone kneels and scratches shapes into sand with a piece of bone, not because it helps them eat, but because the mind is already reaching beyond the stomach. That simple act matters, because it's the beginning of story, the beginning of memory, the beginning of meaning. And then you hear it, a distant sound from the group ahead, a sharp whistle. In the modern world, we whistle for fun or music, but here it's closer to a signal, a way to say come or danger or we're still here. It's not poetry yet, it's survival, but it is connection. This is one of the most important turning points in human history. The long movement out of Africa, the slow spreading into new lands, over many, many generations. Not one dramatic march, but countless quiet steps, guided by seasons, animals, rivers, and luck. And in the middle of all that seriousness, there's a small moment that feels strangely familiar. A child finds a stone that glitters in moonlight. Not fire, just a mineral catching the sky. He lifts it like a treasure, and the adults smile even if it has no use. Because humans, even at the edge of survival, are drawn to what shines. We keep walking, across open grasslands, toward distant ice and mountains, breath turning faint in the cold, and the rhythm of steps begins to feel like a drum, steady, steady, as if the world itself is saying, "This story is only beginning." Morning arrives quietly, light filtering through leaves, damp earth holding the scent of night. We move with a small group now, hair tangled, hands gripping sharpened wood tipped with stone. For a modern listener, hunting might sound like adventure, but here it is closer to anxiety, because a missed throw means hunger, and hunger means weakness, and weakness means being left behind. Every sound in the forest carries two meanings: food or threat. Birds scatter, branches crack, hearts tighten. Someone kneels to study tracks pressed into mud, an early kind of detective work, long before the word science existed. Knowledge passed not through books, but through watching, remembering, surviving. Then it happens. A wild boar bursts from the brush, heavy, fast, dangerous. Spears fly. A cry echoes. Blood darkens the leaves. It isn't glorious. It isn't cruel. It's necessary. And when the animal finally falls, relief washes through the group. Not joy, just release. Today, they will eat. By the stream at midday, water runs clear enough to soften the memory of violence. Fire returns. Smoke stings the eyes. Meat crackles. And hunger makes even tough, smoky flesh feel like a feast. If you've never known real hunger, it's hard to explain. But when the body is empty, the mind becomes grateful, less picky, more present. Nearby, someone taps stones together. Click, click, not to make tools, but sound, a simple rhythm, the beginning of music. No audience, no performance, just noise that says, "We are still here." This matters, because even in danger, humans make room for joy. As night falls, they gather again around the fire. The hunt is retold with exaggerated gestures. Laughter rises, fear shrinks. Stories do that. They turn survival into memory, and memory into meaning. A child runs in circles pretending a bone is a mighty weapon, while a half-tamed dog chews happily on something real. Imagination has already separated itself from necessity. This is the age of hunting and gathering, shaping strong bodies, fast minds, and social bonds. But what lasts longer than muscle is story, because story teaches without pain, warns without wounds, and comforts without fire. An elder's voice grows rough with age, telling of great beasts, spirits in the hills, forces that watch from the dark. These aren't religions yet. For a modern listener, think of them as early explanations, ways to make the night feel less empty, less random, less terrifying. Someone presses a hand against stone, blows pigment across it, and leaves a mark. Not a name, not a signature, but a message to the future. I was here, tens of thousands of years later. We will call it cave art. They simply call it now. As insects hum and flames sink lower, eyes grow heavy. You begin to understand something important. Humans didn't survive because they were strongest. They survived because they shared food, warmth, fear, laughter, and stories. And when sleep finally comes, it carries a lesson whispered by the fire. To stay alive, you must hunt and gather. But to live well, you must laugh and remember. The world shifts quietly now, not with a roar, but with a decision to stay. You step out of the forest and find low clay houses clustered like resting animals. The smell of sun-dried straw and damp earth clinging to the air. For most of human history, people moved because they had to, following animals, seasons, water. But here, something new is happening. Hands press seeds into cracked soil, slowly, carefully, as if placing hope into the ground itself. To a modern listener, farming may feel ordinary, even boring. But this is one of the most radical ideas ever imagined. Waiting, trusting the future, believing tomorrow will answer today's labor. Children run through open yards laughing. Dogs bark. Cats linger near stored grain. And without anyone announcing it, domestication has begun. Not just of animals, but of humans themselves. Daily routines appear. Morning, work, rest, repetition. Pottery emerges, rough clay shaped to hold water, because storing time, in the form of food, changes everything. Hunger becomes less random, but inequality quietly enters the room. Because when surplus exists, so does ownership. You notice it in small ways. A glance held too long, a neighbor's roof slightly better thatched. Competition replaces pure cooperation. This is hard for the modern mind to accept. But villages bring both safety and tension, belonging and comparison. Still, when evening comes, people gather in open spaces, drums beat, feet stamp dust into the air. Ritual is born, not just for gods, but for togetherness. For the first time, humans truly have a place to return to, a word that will later become home. As night settles over planted fields, you lie on dried grass listening to insects, realizing that wandering has slowed, roots have begun to grow, and the human story has taken a turn that can never be undone. Time moves forward again, and with it, people gather not just into villages, but into something larger, heavier, more organized. You find yourself beside a wide river, slow, patient, endlessly giving. For listeners in the modern world, rivers may seem like scenery, but for early civilizations, they were lifelines, teachers, calendars. Floods left rich soil behind, and suddenly food could feed not dozens, but thousands. This is how cities are born, not from ambition, but from water. Clay houses multiply, streets form, markets hum, and strangers become neighbors who will never truly know one another. With numbers comes complexity, and with complexity comes a new problem. Memory is no longer enough. So someone presses a reed into wet clay, carving symbols, not art, but accounting, grain, taxes, ownership. This is writing's quiet beginning, not poetry, but control. You watch as leaders emerge, not just the strongest, but those closest to the storehouses, those who can organize labor, promise protection, and speak on behalf of the gods. To a modern listener, this may feel uncomfortable, but power has always wrapped itself in stories. The ruler is chosen, the ruler is blessed, the ruler is necessary. Belief and authority begin to intertwine. Cities glow at night with oil lamps, temples rise, rituals grow formal, and people kneel not only in fear, but in hope. They ask for rain, for health, for meaning. Faith becomes a shared language, a way to hold thousands together under one sky. And yet, even here, you notice small doubts, whispers in alleyways, questions that do not yet have words. Trade routes stretch outward. Boats carry grain, stories, ideas, and the sense that the world is larger than the horizon. You understand now. Humanity has stepped into a new phase, where cooperation builds wonders, and hierarchy casts long shadows. As the city expands, sound replaces silence. Carts creak over stone. Voices overlap. Smoke and spice fill the air. For someone used to modern cities, this may feel familiar. But for early humans, this density is shocking. Thousands of lives pressing together, rumors traveling faster than truth, and ideas spreading mouth to mouth like sparks. Markets become theaters of daily life, bargaining, gossip, celebration, frustration, and beneath it all, the quiet understanding that order must be maintained. Laws appear, carved into stone, not because everyone agrees, but because disagreement has become dangerous. Guards patrol, walls rise, and the city begins to define who belongs and who does not. To the modern ear, this sounds like progress, but progress always asks for payment. Privacy fades, hierarchy hardens, and freedom becomes conditional. Yet something else is happening in shaded courtyards, beneath columns, in places where people pause from labor. Questions begin to surface. What is the world made of? Who decides what is right? Why do rulers rule? These questions may sound philosophical now, but then they were radical, even risky. Think of them as the first cracks in certainty, the moment humans begin to examine the rules they live under. Teachers gather listeners not with weapons, but with words, debating water, fire, order, chaos. Some ideas are wrong, many are incomplete, but the act of asking itself changes everything. Because once a society learns to question, it can never fully return to silence. Entertainment appears alongside thought. Plays, masks, music. Stories acted out in public spaces. For the first time, strangers laugh together, cry together, learn together. Art becomes a mirror, showing people who they are and who they might become. Even if the language is foreign, emotion crosses easily. As evening falls, torches glow along the streets, and you sense a strange balance forming. Cities create comfort and cruelty, knowledge and confusion, unity and division. Humanity is no longer simply surviving. It is experimenting with how to live together. Night deepens, and the world grows taller, not just in walls, but in meaning. You enter vast halls of stone, domes and towers rising upward, designed to pull the human gaze away from the ground and toward the sky. For a modern listener, temples and churches may feel symbolic, cultural, historical, but here, belief is not optional. It is structure. It explains suffering, justifies power, and promises order in a chaotic world. Priests chant, incense curls through cold air, and people kneel with very different hopes. Rain, love, forgiveness, survival. Faith becomes a shared shelter, something to hold on to when life feels uncertain, and rulers quickly learn this lesson. A crown alone is fragile, but a crown blessed by the divine feels eternal. Kings rule not only by force, but by story, chosen by heaven, protected by gods, unquestionable. Yet belief does not move in only one direction. It unites, but it also divides. When different gods meet, so do different truths. Arguments turn sharp, borders harden, and faith, once a comfort, becomes a reason to fight. To someone listening today, this pattern is familiar. History repeats its lessons patiently, again and again. Still, even in rigid belief systems, curiosity survives. Children ask dangerous questions, scholars whisper doubts, and artists hide criticism inside songs and symbols. The human mind refuses to stay contained, no matter how high the walls rise. As kingdoms spread, loyalty is demanded, taxes collected, armies raised, and the idea of us and them becomes clear. You feel the weight now. Belief has grown powerful, too powerful to remain gentle, and humanity stands at another threshold, where faith and force walk side by side into conflict. The air grows heavier now, thick with soot and motion. You step into a city where the sky itself seems tired, chimneys rising like dark trees, releasing clouds that dim the sun. To a modern listener, factories may sound ordinary, but for people of this age, they are astonishing, terrifying, and unstoppable. Steam hisses, gears grind, metal screams against metal, and time itself begins to accelerate. Work no longer follows the sun, it follows the machine. Hours stretch, bodies bend, and humans slowly learn what it means to become part of a system. Wealth multiplies, but unevenly. Fortunes rise in counting rooms, while narrow streets fill with tired faces. Children work where play once lived, hands small enough to fit between spinning parts. For those listening today, this may sound cruel, but it is important to understand. Progress has always carried a cost, and the bill is rarely paid by those who benefit most. Cities swell beyond imagination. Railways cut through landscapes. Ships of iron cross oceans faster than wind ever allowed. News travels quicker than footsteps. Ideas leap borders, and the world begins to feel smaller, tighter, louder. At the same time, people start to ask new questions. Should life be this way? Who decides the value of a human hour? What is fair? What is freedom? These questions spread like sparks, carried by newspapers, meetings, whispered conversations after long shifts. Movements form, not from palaces, but from crowded rooms and shared exhaustion. People organize, protest, imagine different futures. It is messy, imperfect, often suppressed, but irreversible. Once humans learn they can change the rules, they will keep trying. And then, almost without warning, invention turns toward destruction. Machines built to produce are redesigned to kill. Nations mobilize, factories feed armies, and the speed that once promised comfort now delivers devastation. The world rushes headlong into wars so vast they consume entire generations. Trenches fill, skies burn, and humanity confronts the darkest mirror of its own intelligence. Yet even here, small lights remain. A shared piece of bread, a song in the night, a joke whispered under fire. Because even at its most mechanized, the human heart resists becoming cold steel. The noise begins to fade, slowly, unevenly. After the wars, the world exhales, cities rebuild, hands clear rubble. Children learn to play where fire once fell. For the first time, humanity looks at its own power and feels both pride and fear. The same mind that learned to shape stone and steam has learned how to end everything. And that knowledge never fully sleeps. Then something strange happens. The world moves indoors, into living rooms, around glowing boxes. Voices arrive without bodies. Images flicker from far away. To someone listening now, screens feel normal, unavoidable. But this is a revolution as profound as fire or farming. Stories no longer need a fire circle. They travel through air, through wires, through light. Communities form without touch, and distance begins to lose meaning. The pace quickens again. Computers shrink. Networks grow. Information flows faster than reflection. Humanity connects the planet before learning how to listen to itself. Ideas spread in seconds. kindness and cruelty side by side. For every moment of shared joy, there is confusion, overload, loneliness. The human nervous system, shaped for campfires and small groups, struggles to keep up, and yet, wonder returns. Rockets rise, leaving the ground behind. Humans step onto another world, look back, and see Earth as a fragile blue breath in the dark. From that distance, borders vanish. Arguments feel smaller, and one quiet truth becomes impossible to ignore. Everything we are is here, together. Now, you lie in the present moment, breathing softly, carrying the echo of all those steps, from firelight to farmland, from rivers to cities, from smoke to screens, from the ground to the stars. This story was never about conquest or machines or gods alone. It was about the same question repeating itself across time. How should we live? The answer has never been final, but the asking continues. Tonight, you don't need to solve it. You only need to rest, knowing that you are part of a long, imperfect, astonishing journey. The fire is smaller now, the night is quiet, and tomorrow, the story will go on.